One of the reasons why most people don't get ahead in life is because of what I'm about to share. Now, listen very, very carefully because what you're about to hear will take you from point A to point B. If understood completely, would rid you of this lifestyle of incessant pursuit of things. It will rid you of depression. Everything is a byproduct of growth. I'll say it again. Everything is a byproduct of growth. We live in a world today where your success is gauged by the material things. So how expensive is your watch? How expensive is your materials? How expensive is your apparel? Oh, this is 10 million. This is 20 million. It is interpreted as being successful. Unfortunately, what majority fail to understand that things are a byproduct of growth. This life of falsehood and going to live a fake life, we'll deal with it later. But I want you to understand something that everything is a byproduct of growth. Say, for instance, Elon or the president walks into this building and says, I need $200. You who let your mom die or let a loved one pass because of the equivalent or lesser is willing to take out a loan in order to get access to the funds and say, hey, please remember my name and help me afterwards. Here's the contact on how you reach me once you're no longer stranded. Please remember my name. Why? Because his level of transformation makes it impossible for that condition to exist in his life. So there's a level you need to ascend to in order to make certain things incongruent with your experience. Focus on growth. Focus on transformation. The problem was not the oil. The problem was that the vessel hosting the oil was very small. And Elijah gave a recommendation that is applicable to our life. He said, borrow vessels, borrow not a fee. In other words, the oil is willing to expand, your potential is willing to expand, the business is willing to expand, but the vessel hosting that business, the vessel hosting that potential is very small. So you expand your vessel, you borrow. You don't need to borrow oil. All you need to do is to borrow vessel and borrow not a few. You read further, and when the vessel began to expand, the oil began to expand. And you notice something remarkable. And when there was no more vessel, the oil stopped flowing. From that scripture, we can forecast that if there was one more vessel, the oil would still keep flowing. Now you see that the problem is not the oil. The problem is that the vessel hosting that potential is very small. Majority of you pray for expansion in business. Majority pray that God or the universe will bless the work of their hands. But truly, if you were committed or if more was committed to your hands, you do not have the requisite level of intellectual capacity to handle that business. You struggle to handle a mom and pop shop. You struggle to handle a kiosk. In your face, you are in that business and yet things, products still get missing. And it's that kind of individual who is praying for a mall that relies on CCTV, a mall where you cannot conduct the eyes alone. You struggle to manage a mom and pop shop. You struggle to handle a kiosk and you want a mall. It's impossible. The universe would never commit something like that in your hands. The problem is not to get the more. The problem is not to force your will. The problem is to borrow vessels, enlarge your capacity. read books, listen to people who have undergone the same experience as you. Growth. Focus on growth. When you begin to grow, certain things begin to live your life. Certain things begin to increase. As you grow in your mind, there are certain clothes that will run away from you. This has nothing to do with humility or pride. It's just a byproduct. There are certain apparel that will run away from you. Let me give you this analogy. Previously, I would, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the line, I would try and distinguish fake Nikes from the original. But as I began to grow, the kind of places I found myself in, there is no use for that talent because you are dealing directly with the source. So credibility and integrity is very high. So that reality is no longer my experience where you are trying to identify and authenticate whether this is real or it's not really good. When you begin to grow, everything grows. Your current situation is a byproduct of your mindset. Your environment is a byproduct of your mindset. It is a direct reflection of how you think. And let me clear this air because majority, so does that mean every single thing I have in my life I have grown to attain it? No. There are majority of people who can use as an act of their will to pursue something that is not at par with the level of their mind. Your mindset will compel behaviors that make sure you return back to the initial point where it is. Your mindset will compel behaviors to make sure you return back to baseline. Let me use this analogy because it's pertinent, especially here in Africa. Majority of people see the iPhone as a status symbol. So if you're on the latest version of iPhone, it means you are rich per se. As a consequence, there are people who give up their life in order to get access to this device. Once you're on the latest device, after years of saving, you finally acquire this device. The level of your mindset, the kind of situation you find yourself, it will make it difficult to get access to electricity. Maybe in the process of charging, it falls from some point, and once the screen is cracked because you did not grow to purchase that device, it becomes very difficult to repair. As a consequence, you are forced to downgrade. You see how the law works. And the opposite is equally as probable that once you have the mindset of a millionaire, that God, the universe will begin to compel behaviors that insist you leave that lowly estate. You don't need to fake your life. You don't need to go out and do things. You don't need to struggle and use willpower to get results. All you need to do is focus on growth. Focus on growth. Dismiss these people who bully you. My friend, I sat down on the floor to understand the economy, the kind of room I was in. It was a very tiny room. I would sit down on the floor, try to understand how the economy works, learn, think, analyze. And at the point of doing that, I had no idea that this is a sacrifice, that this is something I'm committing to my destiny. While people were laughing, they made all kinds of projections. They said all kinds of things. Who's laughing now? But as long as I focus on the goal, I have no idea when I moved out to better apartment. I had no idea when I had my own decks and working space and began to make thousands and thousands of dollars. I had no idea when millions started coming. No idea. When millions of dollars arrive, focusing on growth. I never bemoaned my situation or went, why me? Why is this happening? I've done this for a year and there is no result whatsoever. No, focus, focus and you refine. Focus on growth, focus on growth. Do not focus on externalities. Stop trying to take your life. Focus on growth. And the law be- behind this principle will force you to get to a point where certain things are incongruent with your life. I recall when I still used to travel by road. I'll travel by road. It got to a point where road, because of the nature of my work and the high level of insecurity and the time savings, I had to start going by air. So 12 to 15 hour journey is compressed to an hour by air, and price the price. So currently I fly by air, any of my destinations. The moral of that story is I never consciously wanted to fly. I never worked hard or struggled or tried, and I no longer want to use the bus. I want to fly. I never did that. All I did was to focus on growth, and everything will come of its own accord. As always, my friend, the pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.